It is one of the least known mammals, but also one of the most discreet and mysterious. A 3-million-year-old Ice Age surviving species. It's the only South American bear found from Panama down to Argentina. This is the story of the spectacled bear, the most secretive bear in the world. There are anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 of them here in Ecuador, where they inhabit the area ranging from the high Andean plateaus at nearly 15,000 feet above sea level, down to the Amazon lowlands. But the cloud forest is where they prefer to live, a unique ecosystem. Moisture-laden Pacific winds are cooling on the Andean peaks. The resulting condensation forms a cloud cover that bathes the forest in a fine perpetual mist. Tight and tortured trees are covered with moss, lichens, tree ferns, and epiphytic plants like orchids and bromeliads. Dark forests of an exceptional richness, perched 6,000 feet above sea level. The Andean bear reigns as monarch. It's the largest mammal in South America. Smaller than his cousin, the North American grizzly, he imposes with impressive stature, which can be up to 6 feet tall for males and weighing over 350 pounds. Its name, spectacled bear Tremarctos ornatus, comes from the 2 white spots that frame his short snout and sometimes completely surround his eyes. Each individual has different designs that remain unchanged throughout its life. It's basically their identity card. Difficult to observe in its natural habitat, and with very few subjects studied so far, we know almost nothing about their behavior. Even for the people who live in the mountains, they are still only a legend. Where are they born? How far do they travel to other territories? What are their genetics? There is urgency, because the bear's fate is intimately linked to its fragile environment. Will the spectacled bear become extinct before we've even had a proper chance to study it? Time is running out for biologist Andrés Laguna and his assistant Danilo Vasquez. They were the first to determine the essential role of bears in safeguarding rainforests. For the past few years, camera traps placed on its territory have been helping scientists. Thanks to them, the bear, until then invisible, gradually reveals many facets of its daily life. The intimate life of the deep forest is also revealed. Other furtive silhouettes haunt these places, like the massive taciturn tapir or the fiercely silent mountain lion on its nightly hunts. To make it easier to recognize these black and white faces, the researchers have given them first names. Each individual is identified and thus has its own MSDS.
Enrique, Sombra, Mireille, Gabriel, Verónica, Danilo.
La situación del oso andino hace 30 años en Ecuador era desconocida. No se podía inclusive ver ni uno solo en vida silvestre. Los investigadores estudiaban los osos solamente por los registros de las excretas o de los rastros de las achupallas que consumían en el páramo, y con eso generaban información sobre la condición del oso. Pero ahora la diferencia es muy grande, hasta que hemos podido generar un catálogo comportamental en vida silvestre con registros directos.
Andrés and Danilo have been studying, filming, and photographing bears for 10 years, amassing an exceptional image bank. For Danilo, Andean bear research began the day he had an unexpected encounter.
Yo justamente pasaba por la orilla del río, me metí al camino en busca de de ellos mismos, pero la impresión fue verlos cerca. Pues saqué mi cámara, justamente lloviznando, y me dio emoción primero, total, total, y tenerlo cerca. La reacción de la osa fue, bueno, un trespacio un poquito, por primera vez también ver a un humano. De hecho, seguro fue así. Y rápido me di cuenta de que no podía estresarle. Me despedí, le dije chao, 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 chao. Sí. Y cuando recorrí unos metros, tuve que cruzar el río, me comenzó a agarrar los nervios porque me dio esa sensación de que me seguía. Dije, parece que chuta, tal vez me sigue, aquí me ataca. He mirado, he observado en todos los años de que el oso no se confía. No se confía, pero es capaz de coexistir con los humanos, manteniendo una cierta distancia.
Since then, about 30 bears have been recorded in this valley in northern Ecuador. It is a true sanctuary for wildlife and a refuge for mating and breeding. Unlike its North American cousin, the spectacled bear does not hibernate. That would be useless behavior in these latitudes. There are no seasons in the equator. And depending on the plant or tree, the variety of fruits and berries is permanent. The bear feeds this way all year round. Among the Andean bears, the male occupies a large territory. It delimits with olfactory and visual markings. All trees with rough bark are an excuse to leave its scent and the traces of its claws. Two females, on the other hand, can readily cohabit in a smaller area. But the arrival of an adult male immediately breaks off their friendship. Andres tirelessly scours the cloud forests in search of these footprints, traces, and markings. He knows which bears are nearby, but they remain discreet, shy, and at the slightest alarm, they vanish in a flash through the thick forest foliage.
Aquí se puede ver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 y 6 árboles marcados, ¿no? Vamos a ver de cerca. En esta parte hay un buen número de pelos de la parte del pecho porque mordió todo este sector y también frotó la parte de frente.
If a male discovers these markings, it knows the territory is already occupied. Instinctively, it'll look for another place to breed.
El rol que esta especie cumple en el páramo y en el bosque es determinante para la generación de nuevas especies de plantas, inclusive. Por ejemplo, mañana los retiramos todos, digamos. Desaparecen todos de acá y el ecosistema va a quedar abandonado y no va a haber dispersión. Todo ese proceso, toda esa dinámica interna, el bosque y el páramo la van a perder y van a ser ecosistemas vacíos.
Solitary, the male travels great distances most of the year in search of food, avoiding confrontation with stronger, more mature individuals. But when rutting season comes, they start frantically searching for a female to mate with. This is the only time of the year when males and females meet. The act itself is a mock battle, a kind of ritualized game. Andres and Danilo have been following the bear Martina practically since her birth. Today, she's a 4-year-old adult and recently gave birth to her first 2 cubs. A female can conceive up to 3 offspring, though little is known about the 8-month gestation period of female bears. Sometimes fertilization can be delayed and concludes later on as food resources improve. Martina's cubs weighed barely 1 pound when they were born. For the first few months, they will remain sheltered, perched on a 45 feet high platform and well protected from their predators, pumas and humans. The great arboreal faculties of the Andean bear are truly astonishing and remain rare in the family Ursidae. The bear Martina raises her cubs alone. At 1 month old, they are already able to follow her, but they must wait until they are 3 months old to finally be allowed out of the nest. The 2 cubs are already showing very different behavior. The little female is the most nervous and worried. The male, on the other hand, is serene, curious, and adventurous. The male cub is larger in size and constantly testing his strength. In adulthood, the physical difference increases. The size of a male is at least twice that of a female. Just over 4 feet long, Martina weighs only 155 pounds. It is a singular fact that Martina, like all of her peers, is astonishingly skillful in this dense forest. The bear easily climbs trees up to a height of 60 feet. Its 5 non-retractable claws and the smooth soles of its feet adhere perfectly to the trunks like a suction cup. She can enjoy the same tree for days at a time. In the manner of the orangutan, Martina builds a safe and comfortable nest. By breaking branches, it prunes the foliage of the trees and thus accelerates its flowering, promoting the ripening of its fruit throughout the year. On this natural platform, she feels safe to nurse and cuddle her little ones. The wild fig tree is their absolute favorite. It is solid, vast, and its epiphyte fringes protect them from heat and cold. It is also a nice pantry. In just a few days, the small family will consume all the ripe fruit from the ficus. Their excrement will disperse the tree's seeds and fertilize the soil. This reveals the crucial role Martina and her fellow creatures play in the regeneration of the cloud forest. At the top of these tall trees, the cubs are as skillful as dissipated young monkeys. With disconcerting ease, the little ones learn to choose the right branch to move around, the one that bends but doesn't break. On occasion, they can fall from a frail branch, but thanks to these small setbacks, the cubs can now acquire good habits. contrary to what was previously thought. The bear is both diurnal and crepuscular. The female Martina is constantly on the move in search of food, teaching her young about the most nutritious plants, such as cacti and bromeliads, the best known of which is pineapple. A true lesson in botany for the little bears, who quickly grasp what's good and what is not. Eventually, they will learn to distinguish more than 76 different plant varieties. The cubs enjoy mindless play, as Mama Bear keeps a close eye on them. These squabbles are their way of learning how to attack potential game, such as small rodents and deer. For the little male, these games also teach him how to defend himself from a future intrusive congener. The siblings learn to master their balance on these steep and brittle mountainsides. But the danger is real. The thinning of the cloud and the primary forests changes Martina's and her family's behavior. The most energetic plants, such as achupalla, wild fig, or bromeliads, are becoming rare. But these choice foods clinging to the dizzying slopes are only abundant in the most dangerous zones. Therefore, Martina must venture into these unknown areas to scrape out the vitamins her cubs need to grow. The bears can climb these vertical cliffs with extraordinary skill, sometimes risking their own lives.
Esta es una bromelia que fue mordida por un oso, creo que hace unas 2 semanas, porque ya está un color amarillento. Come la parte del corazón de la bromelia y que es lo que pues es más contenido fibroso, ¿no? Esta es la parte que consume.
Spectacled bears generally take refuge at inaccessible and impenetrable heights, where its habitat has remained intact and where human pressure is lower. But the territory is shrinking inexorably. Formerly hunted for its meat, fur, and fat used in traditional medicine, its livelihood is still fragile. Plantigrades are indeed victims of deforestation, urbanization, and the expansion of farming land. This makes it even more difficult for the bears to travel. A family like Martina's needs over 16,000 hectares to meet their food requirements. In times of famine, Martina has to get dangerously close to farms and crops to feed herself, constrained by the reduction of her habitat. The villagers accuse her of ransacking their maize fields, trampling the young shoots, and attacking their herds. The bear must be cunning. She knows she's in enemy territory and only enters at night or when there are no farmers in sight. She's also known to disappear when committing any mischief. Bears are very rarely caught red-handed, but are often wrongly accused. And this does not facilitate the prevention advocated by Andres the biologist. Aware of the risks, he encourages local authorities to promote the creation of natural corridors between reserves. These allow the spectacled bear to access larger territories and be better protected.
Tenemos conocimiento certero, Andrés, de que ellos van circundando el cuerpo hídrico o se cruzan por los terrenos, por las zonas que están intervenidas.
Más bien van de quebrada en quebrada, pero hay pasos donde hay cultivos. Por ejemplo, el que está ahí de maíz, a veces se exponen incluso con los cachorros en ese lugar.
Yo pienso que es súper importante como tener estos puntos, identificar estos puntos críticos de altísima vulnerabilidad del oso y sus crías, de las osas y sus crías, porque normalmente si las personas están bien preparadas, bien formadas, bien sensibilizadas, podemos entender que ellos serían unos protagonistas en salvaguardar la vida, el tránsito del oso. Pero si no, lo que nos ha pasado últimamente es que van a llamar asustados y en esa intención de tratar de defenderse, lo que van a hacer es dar una respuesta negativa en contra del oso. Entonces, y también trabajar full en tema de sensibilización, educación, con toda esta zona, sobre todo con la gente del Inca.
Andrés and Danilo encourage these awareness and information campaigns with all potential actors, villagers, farmers, civil servants, and students. As an educator, the biologist demonstrates that the bear is not dangerous if a certain distance is respected, that it can very well coexist with humans, and that its role in the balance of biodiversity is essential. Andrés advises on reforestation, limiting agricultural fires, and leaving certain plots of crops to bears. He also proves that the folk legend of the killer bear has no factual basis at all.
Del polar, del gris y del negro, que eso sí comen gente, ¿no? Pero estos nunca han comido personas de toda la historia de la especie, en toda la historia de Sisipamba, en toda la historia de Mariana Costa, no ha habido una persona atacada o que un oso se la haya comido, ¿no?
Prácticamente aquí en nuestra zona yo pienso que no ha habido ataques de osos porque no es una zona ganadera. Aquí, como ustedes tal vez vieron, es agricultura, entonces no tenemos problemas. Pero yo he oído que por arriba tengo un primo que tiene ganado y igual no se ha dado mucho de eso, de que sí, que le digo al año tal vez una vez. No hemos tenido muchos problemas en esta zona. Entonces pienso que aquí en nuestra zona San José sí convivimos pacíficamente con el oso. Al igual nosotros hemos aprendido a cuidar la naturaleza y en eso estamos, de preservar la naturaleza. Esa es mi opinión.
The preservation of the ecosystems that bears inhabit and where they play a fundamental role depends on the educational understanding of the local people. The expansion of human activities in these territories seems inevitable, and the only way to protect mammals is to encourage peaceful coexistence.
Si nosotros creemos que hacer conservación es eliminar a todas las vías y todas las fincas, tampoco estamos del todo correcto. Cuando hay producción sostenible, el ganadero regula su finca, pone cercas eléctricas, pone el agua accesible a su ganado y el ganado no se arriesga a zonas donde hay fauna silvestre, donde hay osos.
Andrés learns that a farmer has spotted a bear wandering in his crop fields. It searches for food, attracted by young corn shoots and mature avocados. As the dry season hits, food becomes scarce in the forest. The biologist convinces the farmer to set cages to trap the alleged perpetrators and try to move them to a less populated area. Andrés is hoping it's not Martina, since her capture would leave her cubs orphaned, as they are still too young to fend for themselves.
No, faltan dos más. Sí. Ya.
Yo tenía unos 12 años y ya le conocía a don Tomás. Yo unos 12 años haber tenido yo y sabía que era el líder de aquí, de esta comunidad, siempre. Por eso es que yo creo que todavía ha sido que el oso todavía está vivo, porque si está en otras manos, no.
No, ya hubiera acabado.
Sí.
Se ha sabido tumbarla y comerse con todo abejas.
Claro, claro.
Con todo, ¿qué va a estar?
De ley.
3 colmenas se los come.
La golosina más
Aquí
grande del
estaban
oso
las
es miel.
colmenas. Aquí en este terreno.
No, a ese lado. Por eso digo, vino destructor este pendejo. Que si hubiera estado como abajo, no hacía nada, ¿quién le va a molestar? Contentos que estábamos con el oso.
En verdad.
Contentos. Muchas vino a hacer tonteras, ya, no, que se vaya de aquí.
Primera vez en la historia que llega un animal como es el oso. Lobo, conejo, pero sí creo que es una de las primeras veces porque don Tomás tiene 50 años viviendo aquí en el sector y nunca él ha podido evidenciar un oso.
Yo estoy bien renegado con este animal. En esta parte estaba la cabrita amarrada y baja por ahí y se salta un alto casi de unos 5 metros, cae a la sequía abajo y coge y se va por ahí para adentro. Entonces nosotros es lo que, si es que usted nos puede ayudar, lo que queremos es que se reubique.
Realmente es muy difícil que lo detecten así muy a menudo, pero en realidad las evidencias son que deja pieles de animales, también la gente hace apicultura, deja destrozando los colmenares, también se ha comido algunos cabritos que han habido en este lugar, entonces muy a veces de lejos se ha dejado ver el oso, es lo que comenta aquí el señor dueño.
The bears were thought to be occasional herbivores, as well as scavengers when finding a dead body in their way. However, they have adapted their diet to the presence of humans and the lack of food in the thinning forests. They now appear to prey on livestock, although no one has captured any bear attacks on film as yet. An opportunist, this large male bear is trying to clench the remains of a decomposing breeding bull. His strength is phenomenal. Fangs sunk deep into the flesh of the 600-pound bovid, the bear seems to move it effortlessly, like a bale of straw. A second cage is installed to increase the chances of capture, but this time further down into the forest, where Andres spotted the recent traces of a plantigrade passing by. The cage will be checked every half hour, as the catches are most important during the day. Danilo leaves a honey-based bait in the cage, which the bears find irresistible. The cages are quite an efficient capturing system. Although very random, sometimes the bear can circle around the trap without getting caught. In this case, we will call the veterinarian to neutralize it with an anesthetic. Andres was right. The bear was very close indeed. She cautiously approaches the cage, attracted by the sweet mixture contained in the bait. she seems to smell danger. She's suspicious, but she can't resist the intense aroma of the concentrate. She's getting closer. Still, she hesitates. The cage is empty. The bear dodged it at the last minute.
Bueno, planificamos desde meses los trabajos de marcaje de animales. Aquí el esfuerzo con Danilo ha sido permanente. Tuvimos la osa en el árbol, estábamos esperando pues la asistencia veterinaria. Teníamos dos opciones. El plan A era trabajar en el árbol y el plan B era trabajar en la trampa. Entonces, en el árbol pasó mucho tiempo, la asistencia veterinaria ha tardado más de lo que se planificó y se aplicó el plan B, que es trabajar con la trampa de captura. Esto es un proceso de evolución constante, por eso es investigación para la conservación. Cada vez los métodos y los protocolos toman años para perfeccionarse y trabajar. Años, recursos, tiempo, esfuerzo. Por eso es que en vez de echarnos para atrás, nuestra obligación es seguir adelante.
Capturing a wild animal is not an easy exercise. Spectacled bears are particularly smart and not easily lured. They have a superb memory. If the bear senses any danger as he approaches the cages, it will not return to the same spot and will never fall for that trap again. The biologist decides to use other means of capture. The bear has been located again near the river. Andres calls the veterinarian to anesthetize the animal at a very short distance with a special gun. If all goes according to plan, Andres will put a collar on the bear with a transmitting device. The animal will then be under 24-hour surveillance thanks to the GPS coordinates sent back by the satellite. Andres will be able to observe its behavior and also avoid another confrontation with the regional farmers and ranchers. The bear is located. She's closing in at a safe distance from the scientists. The practitioner estimates the weight of the bear and calculates the proportions of anesthetic needed to make the animal fall immediately, without injury, stress, or trauma of any kind. This inaccessible geographical area with its vertical cliffs makes it increasingly challenging for scientists to accomplish their tasks. The operation is a success. Anesthesia is a practice that must remain rare and exceptional with wild animals. The slightest mistaken dosage can put them at risk. The bear's health is being assessed. Blood, urine, and fecal samples are taken for future laboratory analysis. Andres makes careful adjustments to the collar in order to avoid any interference in the plantigrade's movements. based on the high plateaus, far from the crops. Its transmitter collar might reveal new undiscovered secrets of this species.
A mí me gusta más usar esta porque yo tengo que salir a tomar los datos de la alta frecuencia que me da el collar de los osos y no solamente obtener su posición, sino también qué es lo que está sucediendo en ese momento, en ese lugar. La comunidad utiliza este sistema para saber que el oso está cerca, para saber que está acercándose al maíz o al ganado y se puede prevenir aplicando otras medidas, ¿no? Para que el oso se mantenga a distancia. Entonces, es una herramienta muy útil, tiene su costo, sí, pero cuando hablamos de investigación y cómo esto nos puede funcionar, tiene mucho sentido hacer este tipo de investigación.
Andrés is on the trail of Silvestra, a 6-year-old female. Her transmitter has been out of range and silent for months. Now the biologist knows she's there, close by. The signal is barely perceptible, but its frequency is regular. Silvestra finally shows up. Surprise! Silvestra the bear is not alone. She's being followed by a bear cub, a male about a year old. He already seems strong and skillful enough to become independent. This is an important moment because at this age, the mother must encourage her cub to survive and fend for himself. Silvestra has lost a lot of weight, but she must wean her young male within the next few days, or she's in mortal danger. Soon she will be in heat again, find a partner, and have more babies. She needs to build up a supply of nutrients so that she can breastfeed her young ones later on. Things are not easy for Silvestra and her little cub, her single only offspring. She's very attached to him. For many months, she was his breastfeeding mother, his protector, and his playmate, all in one. The games are getting more and more aggressive. Silvestra shows signs of fatigue and irritation. It is time to part ways. For the spectacled bear, the separation time is dictated by the amount and gender of the cubs. A male calf leaves earlier than a female at just 1 year of age, as soon as it reaches the size of its mother. There is danger in staying home, as any encounter with a rutting adult male could be fatal. It might try to kill the cub in order to mate with the mother. There are no rules. Each individual has a different character and growth cycle. Silvestra has an ongoing quarrel with her cub. She's forced to hunt her offspring, literally. The little male is now alone. He is clumsy, looking for a snack and keeping busy. He must remember everything his mother taught him, but he can't rely on her anymore as she is living somewhere far away. He is very disturbed. He barely eats, and he must get used to surviving. In order to avoid unwanted encounters, he travels at night and sleeps during the day alone. He seems drowsy. Now fully emancipated, the objective of the young male is to find a territory far away from the large males. It can only reproduce around 4 years of age, or by the time it is large enough to compete with more mature males. His mother, Silvestra, has moved away from her little one to avoid the risk of meeting him and having to hunt him again. She found a giant ficus loaded with ripe fruit to rest in for a few days. She spends most of her time eating fruits and berries. To sleep, she sets up a platform on every floor of the big ficus, which she uses depending on the time of day and the temperature. Solitary outside maternal periods, she will live 25 years if no accident interrupts her relatively peaceful life. Soon she'll be returning to the same places with her new family to share her knowledge with her cubs up there on the same tall trees. A few weeks have passed. A rutting male from another valley approaches Silvestra's lair. He'd like Silvestra to take an interest in him. He roams the steep banks of the river that runs through the valley. The period of seduction and courtship may last several days or even weeks, especially when the male is young, like this one. Male and female will communicate through growling and cooing and will be attracted by various facial expressions and postures in a ritualized ceremony. They will only stay together for this short mating period, no more than a week. Then the male will leave in search of another partner. To this day, the spectacled bear is still on the red list of endangered species. Although it is suffering from the human activities that are slowly eating away at its living space, to some extent it has been able to adapt to this new environment. And in Ecuador, they've become a tourist attraction. Thanks to the awareness work established by Andres and Danilo, the local population have finally understood the importance of its preservation. But the spectacled bear has yet to reveal all of its secrets. It was recently spotted in the eastern Amazon, where it had never been seen before.